The Appalachia I live in is far different than the Appalachia you envision with your imaginations. My Appalachia is an area filled with lore from numerous historical events that have occurred within the mountains. While society believes Appalachia to be a place where the radical and ill-natured white male contains its breeding circle of related females, it is actually a region that, for all its isolation, continually produces individuals that provide great triumphs and artistry ahead of its time. Appalachia isn't full of white men and women whose family trees never fork, but was America's first true melting pot, where all races lived in relative similarity due to the hardness of the land and the inability of society to easily send their beliefs. Appalachians live by necessity, and each land-hardened freethinker settling within this mountain range allowed societal pressures very little control over their day-to-day lives, or the perception of their fellow man. As areas were colonized and slavery introduced to tame the wilderness that those on top of the social hierarchy could not tame alone, the areas of Africa, Ireland, and Scotland were used to provide hard workers who would be sold into slavery to accommodate a debt or accommodate the crown. Indentured servitude kept all races on a very similar social strata, and created bonds that went far beyond blood and kinsmen. For the Scots-Irish, still no day of satisfaction has presented itself to apologize for the liberties taken to enslave generations to benefit the wealthy. Every other race has received, if nothing else, an apologetic tone denouncing ancestors' behaviors, but not the Scots-Irish. This group is largely still depicted as ignorant white men and women who are unable to now close the social chasm that several hundred years has created. And indeed, it seems no social group or ancestral community has requested that this oversight be corrected. For that reason, Appalachia has transformed into the butt of many demographically lined jokes. But throughout history, the influence of this hardy group has been displayed, and prominently. Appalachia has produced some of the most memorable stars, from Lucille Ball and Patsy Cline to Loretta Lynn. The culture also still has all native roots, not only practicing, depicted, and displayed, but still maintaining their native ways, just as they would have hundreds of years ago. While the language of this area is often ridiculed, it is the most perfectly preserved form of colonial speech recorded and still spoken. Appalachians were at the forefront of the civil rights movement and provided insight into the mainstream media. In case you didn't know, a small-town boy from Chattanooga steered the New York Times to unimaginable success. And for all our great soldiers such as Alvin C. York that we've offered for our nation, the defamation of our area continued. From the 60 specials on the poor and desolate to the call to reduce the numbers of the inferior hillbillies from Appalachia. Yet for all the negativity, Appalachia is never thanked for the coal, mineral resources, timber, labor workforces for mills and mines, and today's largest tourist attractions. Appalachia is far more than the joke of the unethical masses without humility. We in Appalachia are the truest example of the melting pot America was meant to be, where every man knows hardship and respects the internal strength of his neighbor, whatever their skin color, religion, and belief system. Appalachia should be embraced as the backbone of America and the abandoned child of a constitutional republic that has had to fend for itself for far too long.